Suma, we're going to start with you for best bets for this week. Who is it and why?
It's the Atlanta Falcons getting 1.5 or 2 points, depending on the place. I think Pinnacle is at +2, -110. I like this matchup for Atlanta. Yes, Desmond Ridder didn't really look sharp last week. He had some issues, but I also think that he played against one of the best defensive coordinators in the game, who made his life very tough. Like, the Panthers got pressure up front. They were covering decently at the back end, except for Kyle Pitts, who was open on like 5 shorter routes. But in general, I think that the Panthers defense played quite solid against the pass. And I'm not sold on the Packers defense. I'm not sold on Joe Barry. And I think that the Falcons are going to have a significant edge when running the football here. Safety situation with Rudy Ford is bad for the Packers. Quay Walker, we don't know whether he was about to make a leap this year, but he's in the concussion protocol. I also don't like the cornerback depth outside of Jair Alexander. I think that the Bears offense made the Packers defense look much better than they truly are. And I think this is a classic Arthur Smith Falcons ground and pound game. And I also think that the Falcons defense is better than last year. And overall, great matchup for the Falcons. I don't think they should be dogs right now. We will see on Christian Watson. I think he will be DNP today. I have him in with a 50% chance. If he's out, even better for the bet. But yeah, I like that Falcons matchup. And I want to sprinkle in some situational Zuma here, because it's a back-to-back road game for the Packers, and the Falcons been sleeping in their beds for over 4 weeks now, if that matters to someone.
It could matter to someone. It matters to you, Suma, so it matters at the end of the day. Hitman, we're going to the same game for you. Who do you like and why? What do you like and why, I should say?
Yeah, so I like Green Bay, Atlanta, under 40.5. Both teams were bottom 3 in pass rate over expectation in week 1, and Desmond Ridder had the shortest average depth of target of any quarterback in the league. In fact, 50% of his passes were at or behind the line of scrimmage. And if you think about how are they going to push the ball down the field in this game, their number one weapon, Drake London, is going to be covered by Jair Alexander. That's shut down some great receivers, including Justin Jefferson, in the past. So what other receivers do they really have? It's going to be a lot of Bijan Robinson catching screen passes, short routes, and Kyle Pitts. Who knows if they're going to use him? They haven't so far during the Arthur Smith era. And then Green Bay, if you look at their metrics last week, they scored a lot of points against Chicago, but a lot of it was on Love just being absolutely unreal on 3rd and 4th down, which is kind of unsustainable. Green Bay, there was a lot of talk about their pace in years past. They were the slowest offense in the league, and people were saying, well, it was an Aaron Rodgers thing. He likes to play slow. Well, they were the 6th slowest offense last week, so maybe it's a little bit of a LaFleur thing. Both teams attracted lots of under money in their games last week. We obviously have the injuries for the 2 most explosive playmakers on Green Bay. These are 2 defenses that Green Bay's invested a ton to first-round picks over the past few years. Their owner came out before the year saying this is going to be a team that's going to win with defense in the first half of the season. And Atlanta spent a ton of money on free agency to get this defense better. So for me, Falcons, Packers, under 40.5.
All right. So Suma on the Falcons, Hitman on the under in that game. I'm switching to Monday Night Football here. This is a hold your nose special. Last week I went with the Raiders against the Broncos, and my whole thing was I don't trust the Broncos to win by margin ever. Maybe a little bit of recency bias, but I do not trust the Saints to win by margin at this point either. I think the offense has some real problems. Obviously, they have some very good receivers there in New Orleans. However, the offensive line, I was very concerned about the interior going into last week. They did not perform well. Their left tackle, Trevor Penning, was awful. I do think the Panthers can really get home in this game. The J.C. Horn injury matters, but I do think Carolina is going to be able to generate a pretty decent pass rush against Derek Carr, who's been flustered in the past, especially in some of these road games where he's outdoors, where his success rate, EPA metrics, pretty much every metric you want to look at for Derek Carr gets a whole lot worse when he's playing outdoors on the road. This has historically been a situation where he has struggled to cover, especially as a favorite. I'm doing a hybrid number similar to what I did with the Raiders last week. So Pinnacle is kind of in the 3.25 range. Play a half unit on the +3, +105, a half unit on the +3.5, -117. Do I have concerns about the Panthers offense? Yes, I do. With that said, a little bit of a misleading box score last week. The first drive against the Atlanta Falcons, they went down the field. They got stuffed on 4th down. Their yards per play metrics were better than the Atlanta Falcons. 24-10, not truly indicative of how tight that game was overall. And Bryce Young, again, on the road, first career start, much different than returning home here against the New Orleans Saints, where I think they'll have the benefit of the running game as well, considering the Saints' interior of their defense is not the strongest in terms of stopping the run. Last thing I will say, I watched Saints-Titans in its completion. Very misleading final score there as well. The Titans had a touchdown blown dead, a defensive touchdown blown dead. That's not going to show up in a box score anywhere. That would have been absolutely a touchdown in that game. Ryan Tannehill missed 2 wide open touchdowns in that game as well. There was a lot of opportunity for Tennessee to score that they just did not capitalize on. But that's going to be it for me. The Carolina Panthers, hold your nose special, +3, +105. I know people will hate it. I kind of hate it, but you got to trust your numbers. And I honestly think the matchup is pretty solid as well.